What's up, everyone? My name is Marissa. Welcome to these soul blueprint readings. It's very important to keep in mind that these are general readings and the soul's blueprint is extremely complex. All right, there's a lot of intricacies to these things and a lot of undertones. And so my intention with those things that I release on the internet is to meet the viewer with exactly where they're at in order to set them free into a new level of awareness and understanding of themselves and the truth of themselves, the truth of this experience, the nature of reality, etc. So just keep that in mind. These are 4 piles that will be tuning into general energies. All right, there's a lot of, again, layers and complexities and all different types of beings that will be tuning into this at different points. But I feel very excited. These are my cup of tea in terms of the readings that I like to give and to extend to you guys along your journey. So we're diving into your oversoul. So we're going to get a good read and a good glimpse into the energies of your oversoul in general. We'll get a good gauge in terms of how many incarnations your oversoul, your higher self, has taken, how many individuations you've had. And then we are going to deep dive into this incarnation in particular. So whatever personality form is tuning into this, we'll get a good glimpse into the reason, what it is that you came here to learn, and in most cases, what it is that you guys came here to teach and to extend. All right, so 4 piles to choose from today, my friends. You can pause the video if you need to. And whenever you're feeling right, we're going to hop right into these readings. Hey everyone, if you guys chose pile number 1, here is your soul blueprint reading for why you took birth at this point in time. We're all wondering. We're all wondering that, aren't we? So we're going to dive into the energies of your higher self and just get a glimpse of the types of incarnations. I honestly don't really know what's going to come through. It's always a surprise to me as well. But we'll get a general sense of your oversoul, your higher self in general, and then again the details about this incarnation. So I haven't looked at any of your cards yet. We're going to go through that real time together. So starting with the energies of your oversoul, pile number 1, we have Medicine Mother, honor your inner knowing. Okay, I'm already getting old soul vibes for sure. Spring, see your seeds grow. And for the animal spirit, we have otter. Oh yeah, very wise souls. And cheetah. Okay, so overall, I'm getting a very, first of all, it's interesting that this theme continues to come through about the wisest beings that we know, right? The wisest beings on this planet are those beings that don't take themselves too seriously. It's a very delicate dance, right? With this otter energy coming through and the Medicine Mother. It's a very delicate balance of taking it seriously, understanding that you're standing for either truth or shadow, right? And that generally we default, or the general default for planet Earth at this point in time, the general default is shadow and illusion, right? So it's this delicate balance of like knowing that you have a choice to choose either light or to choose shadow. And generally, if you're not choosing, if you're not utilizing your capacity as a creator, utilizing free will to choose light, then you're most certainly probably perpetuating karma and shadow, illusion, etc. So it's this delicate balance of knowing that you have choice, right? And that generally when you choose light and when you choose wisdom, there is this sense of playfulness around an entity and around an individual. And I'm seeing with pile number 1 that you guys, this really communicates a sense of an extremely integrated and wise being that has had many different types of births, right? Many different types of incarnations. And that's why your path has probably felt extremely accelerated. This reminds me of like an accelerated path. So beings that learn a lot very quickly, because it's like when you've gone through incarnation, when you have had lifetimes, you don't forget you don't forget the wisdom that your soul has learned, right? And so what might take some people, younger souls, seems like they're working on just 1 or 2 lessons throughout an incarnation because they haven't necessarily gone through that. Their higher self hasn't necessarily integrated that to the extent that your guys' higher selves have integrated certain lessons, right? So in order to catch you back up to speed, you can move through things, relationships, right, with people, organizations, etc., very quickly, because you're extracting the medicine, right? You're extracting the juice of what these experiences are here to teach you. Yeah, so with See Your Seeds Grow, I feel like your higher self, this is an incarnation where, of course, we're taking birth on a very dense planet, right? A planet that is heavily veiled with illusion. So to some extent, you're going to experience that. But ultimately, I am saying that this life feels very free for you guys. And it feels like a time where, you know, it doesn't necessarily feel like you have to rely too much on outside teachers or outside guidance, because, again, you have learned so much. Your higher self has integrated so much. There's a lot of power that's being communicated here. And so it's almost like See Your Seeds Grow, to me, is like you're kind of reveling in the amount of expansion that you've undergone from hundreds of thousands of incarnations. And there's been a lot of growth. There's been a lot of playing all different types of parts for all different types of people, playing many different narratives, being on both sides of the hero's journey. So in some senses being the villain, and then in some senses being the hero. And then ultimately your higher self is at a point to where it realizes that that doesn't inherently mean anyone is good or bad. And so if you are a being, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys are beings too who have really integrated the understanding of evil and what that is, and how it's just a perception, right? It's just a perception. And I'm hearing too that, yeah, you guys are just, I feel like you tread very lightly. You don't take things too seriously. And because of that, that's why things move very quickly for you. And yeah, honor your inner knowing. I feel like you're just, it's probably not hard for you, right? Again, with the amount of veils and confusion and just like being connected to the species of humanity, certain things can infiltrate your field, most certainly, but I feel like you don't stay there very long. And at the very least, it's like, yeah, your higher self is like coming through strong and just reasserting, or at the very least, just acknowledging is a better word, acknowledging the amount of tactfulness and skill and faith that you have developed throughout incarnation to be at a point to where you are now, right? And so this feels like a very playful, a very lighthearted, a very quick moving energy from your higher self. It's like you came here to, and it's already leaking into this reading, right? But it's like you're very advanced. You've done a lot of unearthing of the nature of reality, and through many, 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 many different types of births, okay? So we're going to move deeper into the reading, but overall, yeah, very powerful being. And on many levels, there's like this sense of awe in terms of how it's all unfolding and how it all continues to unfold, right? Because it's like, it's not like this thing to where on one level you feel a type of way, or on one level you can conceptualize certain truths, and on a deeper level you don't feel that to be true. I'm hearing you deeply feel these principles to be true. There's like a very relaxed sense about you guys. And again, coming back to the most wise beings, or the beings that like take it serious enough, but at the end of the day know that it's just here today, gone tomorrow, right? And nothing ever happened, and it's all, back into absorption, right? So we're going to get into the relevancy of why this very extremely highly advanced higher self chose to take form on Earth at this point in time, here and now. Okay, so before I get too far into it, I just want to say that it seems like a really fun way to see how far you've come, and just, it's not like you're here to flex on anyone, but at the same time, for a being to be able to tap into the 0 point field and to experience profound levels of peace on the planet at this time, I feel like just shows the level of advancement And so on, and in some senses, it's almost like a graduation ceremony, right? It's almost like a graduation, or like the for many of you too, it could be one of the final incarnations that you have on planet Earth at this point on the planet, at the very least, right? Because who knows, maybe like thousands of years from now it might be different, and who knows, maybe we'll venture back. But I am hearing that part of your purpose for taking birth in this incarnation is to really put the wisdom to practice, and being as present as you can in seeing the beauty that unfolds from that place. Like, that is where miracles happen, right? The more present you are, the more the synchronicities increase, and it's like things that might seem far out to some people are very normal for you, like how resources come to you, or how your intuition is confirmed, or it's like living in a state of awe is what continues to come through, right? And so you're also here to communicate a level of peace to other people through your presence. And you're grounding a lot of, you're grounding these source codes onto the planet when it needs it the most, right? So next we have milk and honey. Yeah, so much sweetness. Man, so this life is, I feel like, much less about your own learning. Of course, you're going to continue to learn. And especially for you guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some like teacher cards come up. I would not be surprised at all, because this seems like a pile that has taken birth more so for the betterment of others as self, and heard the cry, heard the calls of Earth at this time, and wanted to help its other selves, or wanted to assist this planetary ascension. I just saw 1010 on the clock. So there's a lot about helping humanity through this very heavy period where it's either people are going to ensnare themselves in either even greater karma, or have the opportunity to set themselves free. Okay, so this is a very bodhisattvic kind of pile. And what is sattvic energy in Ayurveda? We have, rajasic energy, tamasic energy, and sattvic energy, right? Tamasic energy is like, again, kind of the default, where illusion can take over, where there's like a stagnancy. And the veils of illusion can become heavy and they can sneak in, right? But sattvic energy is very pure. It's very, it dwells in the light of truth as much as it can. And that's its purpose, that's its reason for being. And that's your guys' reason for being in this incarnation, is to dwell, 11:11 on the clock, to dwell in the light of truth. So bodhisattvic vow. You came here to be a light of truth on the planet at this time. For people, and there's a certain sweetness that you emanate, there's a certain here and nowness that you emanate, there's a certain degree of being very beyond the insanity of humanity, very, very removed from it. Okay, so let's get deeper. Why did your soul choose birth? Forge, don't follow, pave a new path, be the leader you wish you had. So yeah, there's that teacher kind of leading by example energy that I knew was going to come through. I mean, with Medicine Mother and honor your inner knowing, this really goes to show that you have a very profound connection with your higher self. You have a very deep connection with your higher self, and the more that you lean on that connection, the more rapidly things are going to move for you with Cheetah and the See Your Seeds Grow, right? The more you give yourself permission to kind of detach in a way that honors your integrity, okay, and that doesn't close your heart along the way, right? Forge, don't follow, be the leader you wish you had. So part of this incarnation for pile number 1 is to be the leader, to step up to the plate, to speak these ancient wisdom truths into the lives of other people, right? And in a way that's very unique, right? So there's these teachings and these wisdoms, right? It's spiritual law, right? And it's how spiritual law operates, and it's how spiritual law operates in relation to planet Earth and the densities currently on this planet, the paradigms currently on this planet. And so those aren't really going to change, but depending on the vehicle and, the density of the vehicle, you guys, pile number 1, and your blueprint, etc., all of the intricacies, right? What feels natural to you, your background, all of these things, what makes you laugh, what brings light into your world, right? So however that looks for you, there's like a very unique unique sense that this is wanting to come through you, with the otter especially. Very playful too, right? So again, taking it serious enough, but not too seriously. All right, so you're definitely here to kind of show people. I'm hearing the way that you show up is to be very different, and to get people at the very least thinking like, oh, spirituality doesn't look like one way, or it doesn't look like A, B, C, or D. It's the more in tune you become with your soul stream, your higher self, the more unique it's going to look. And the less people, are going to be able to mimic you. They could try, but, you're coming from a very authentic place, or you're being encouraged more and more to be authentic and to not let your mind get in the way of how you think it should look. Because then that's, again, when you're in a weird way trying to fit other people's molds of how you should be, or how a spiritual, powerful leader, a change maker looks and acts, etc. And it's like, you're forged, don't follow, right? You make it up as you go, and people will feel the purity behind your heart and where you're coming from. A lot of you guys, this is just what you're already doing. And, I'm just kind of confirming to you what you already know, okay? The great severing, Mars energy, anger, conflict, softening to love. So you're here to help people see a different perspective of hardship, right? You're here to help people reframe their relationship to suffering, and to see, God in a different light of like the great punisher, or the great merciful being, right? And to help people reframe their relationship to pain, and to essentially show them how it is here to set them free, and to soften them, to tenderize them. And again, it's not to like knock anyone off of like any perceived high horse or anything, but it really is because higher self knows, your higher self has learned throughout all of these incarnations, that aligning the smaller will, aligning the smaller self to that of the higher self is what brings true fulfillment. And you can't really make that journey if the heart has closed down, right? And so you guys are here to keep your heart open, because, there's and I'm about to make a whole last video about this on my main channel, but just based off of things I'm experiencing in my own life and things that are coming to light in my own life. But that's when you enter very dangerous terrain, is when you enter wisdom teachings, or you embody wisdom teachings, you're engaging in wisdom teachings and practices, but when you leave the heart closed, or when the heart is not making the journey with you, and you're not going through your heart in order to tap into that wisdom, that's when a lot of dangerous shit can happen, and we create more suffering for others and ourselves, essentially, right? And the karmic propensities that go along with that, that's a whole different story. So you're definitely here to help people keep their heart open. Like Ram Dass would say, this journey is really about how to keep your heart open in hell. That's how it can feel sometimes, right? And you guys will know as much as I do that, there's periods where we feel so blissed out, and it really, we are existing in our own bubble with here and now and milk and honey. It's like a very sweet bubble that we're existing in. And then there's periods too where you see the suffering. You can feel the suffering of other people, and it's essential that we don't close down to that, right? Because that's the bodhisattvic vow. Like, I will not leave, or I will continue to come here until everyone is set free. Because we see other self, we see there's no separation, right? And so with this anger and this conflict, you came here for this time on the planet, right? You came here for this point in particular, 2020 especially, 2012 you could say for some, but 2020, a significant amount of light workers came online and had a hell of a lot of activations happen. Why is that? Is because it's like, it was almost like those codes were dormant until shit started popping off, right? And so it's like, all right, this is why we came. This is what we're here for. There's that song by Rihanna, What You Came For. Oh, I'm hearing that right now. All right, so tarot, we have 8 of Pentacles. We have Page of Pentacles. We have 5 of Pentacles. We have Strength. We have 5 of Wands. And we have King of Pentacles. So right away, there's a hell of a lot of Pentacles. So you did come here to engage in the play, right? You did come here to work with other people. You did come here to, sometimes I feel like when beings have these types of codes in their blueprint, they're tapping into other lifetimes where they did spend a great amount of time in isolation and a great amount of time as a monk and as, say a sage, right? Where meditation was at the forefront. So this is a very active life that you guys came here to take. At the very least, it's like if you're questioning, or like sometimes when I see these codes in people's blueprint, we can almost want to revert to that because it's so much easier being bathed in the light of truth. But it's like with the conflict, the great severing, and this Five of Wands, it's like, no, you came here to participate, to be an active participant, right? And it's essential for you to tune in, right? Honor your inner knowing above anything, but you did come here to have an active role, and whatever you're doing physically, that is also your dharma, right? That's part of what is going to infuse these codes even more onto the planet, right? So you came here to help people that feel broken and lost, to find their own inner strength and their own perseverance, right? And again, to see the purity behind all events and all situations. Yeah, there's definitely, with the page energy and then the lamb that's coming through, there's most certainly a sense of like keeping a beginner's mind, the importance of not thinking that you know everything, right? And that comes with here and nowness. Like we are a much more powerful vessel and servant to our higher selves when we release the need to be right. And, you know, that's where conflict and all war, etc., is born from, is when it's like this phrase has been coming up a lot for me this week in a really funny way. It's interesting that, you know, our language has taken us past the point of practicality and into the point of insanity. And so now it's no longer just like getting on the same page or just like lighthearted communication, just getting on the same page with like, what the fuck is up? Or like, what are you doing? Or like, are we going to go kill this animal to go eat? You know, like it's gone way beyond practicality, and it's brought us into a realm of insanity, and to a point where we're willing to die for that insanity. Right. And it's like this sense of we're all living in a delusion, in our own separate delusion, especially as long as you're believing your thoughts to be real, that's delusional. And then a lot of people, so many people on this planet, I even do this sometimes too. It's like but my delusion is less delusional than yours, right? That's what everyone is essentially doing. And so I feel like you're really here to set people free in a very powerful way, and to show them how, as long as they're believing in the insanity of their own mind, that they're going to continue to feel this type of way. Right? It's going to continue to lead them to disappointment until they can approach life from a very, it's like becoming the king through embodying the page, right? Becoming the king through embodying the page. So like there's a certain maturity that comes through allowing yourself to see through the eyes of a child, right? Unless you be like little children, you cannot enter the kingdom. Children are unassuming, so there's not this sense of arrogance about them. They're very receptive. They're very present. My daughter is one of my greatest teachers. She shows me first-handedly what it means to be in the presence of God, right? In the presence of just honoring the natural state, the natural harmony of things in each moment. And that's that here and now energy that's coming through too. And again, your guides keep reiterating the point of like, you know, Earth and the energies on Earth are cyclical. Harmony is not always going to look the same. So what is the most harmonious and peaceful thing to do in one moment might be not harmonious and not peaceful in another moment. You're not getting lost in how that's supposed to look. Peace and harmony is going to look different from day to day. Sometimes peace and harmony is going to look like conflict, right? And anger. But it's like choosing your battles, because you have this warrior, you have this dharmic warrior energy about you, to where it's like you're here to set yourself free. And you're here to work on yourself, understanding that by you setting yourself free, that's going to inevitably allow other people to do the same. But you really are here for the people. This is a lifetime where you came here to be a teacher, a leader, right? Someone that is very generous with their resources in whatever way that means for you. Someone that's building communities, right? And someone that is not afraid of that groundwork and getting dirty. And it's like the wisdom that's coming through here is of like, you know, you're beyond it all. So there's this no sense of needing to prove yourself. And it's just like, all right, what does today have to offer? What am I doing in the here and nowness? That's one of the reasons why your higher self is here, is because you already know so much. You're already beyond a lot of the lessons that Earth has to offer at this moment. And so there's no sense that you need to prove that you're an illumined being or anything. You don't need to prove anything, you know, because you know why you're here. And you know you are beyond a lot of the realms that many people on this planet are within and trapped in at this time. And you're here to help set free. So it's not about getting other people to understand you, but it's about meeting other people where they're at, right? And ultimately, you guys, I feel like, are already so wise to understand that you're going to be taken care of. With See Your Seeds Grow and this Eight of Pentacles and the King, you're going to be taken care of, right? And so the most important thing is just like, what's going on today, and understanding a lot of the karmic propensities that you are experiencing aren't your higher selves, right? I'm seeing that these aren't lessons that are inherent for what you need, but it's that bodhisattvic vow. You take on the karma. Greater, older souls take on the karma of the planet to help transmute it, to help it, to leave it lighter. So it's like digging your feet in, right? Not being afraid of that process. And so there's a very, very intricate lessons here, right? These are very complex lessons, but very simple at the same time, because it's like, where are we getting to? Like the sense of like, that there's nowhere to get to. It's all here. It's all now. It's all eternal. And there's nothing to do. It's already complete. It's all already been done, right? And that's the wisdom your higher self wants you to live from more and more. And you guys, I feel like, are already doing that, right? So beautiful reading. Thank you for being here. If this resonated, please give this video a thumbs up, comment if you're guided, subscribe if you're guided, and I hope to see you soon, pile number 1. Hey, pile 2, welcome to your soul blueprint reading for why you chose to come here. That's the biggest question we all have right now. That's funny. Okay, so we're gonna dive into your over soul, so your higher self in general. We'll probably get a good gauge just in terms of just the undertone, the flavor that you bring to this incarnation, and we'll get a gauge of how many incarnations you've had. And then we're gonna dive into this lifetime in particular. So let's get right into it. So first, for pile 2, Spirit, we're diving into the energies of the higher self for pile 2. White Witch, be the light. I'm not surprised. All right, reading done. We can end it there. Heart Guardian, love and let yourself be loved. Wow, this is I'm already getting 4th density vibes from this pile, right? Very pure beings for sure. Octopus. Okay, so yeah, you're definitely an older soul with many, you've had your tentacles, so to speak. I see each tentacle as like different individuations, different lifetimes. So very old soul. And Zebra. Okay, so the energies for your higher self. I mean, you guys are portals. You guys are portals of truth, portals of light. I think of Mother Mary, and I think of Ascended Masters when I see this in particular. Because it's one thing to be wise, but it's another thing to be wise and to not have your heart closed down at the same time. And so your higher self, the incarnations you've taken it's been very necessary and important for my pile number 2s to not have their heart closed down in the name of light, in the name of truth. And this is just a theme that we're all kind of going through at this point on the planet, when there's so much that is like encouraging our hearts to close down to other selves and to just close down in general, like a mistrust in life and a mistrust in general. But you guys, your higher self has been preparing for this point on the planet, or at the very least, it's safe to say that you are in a really good space to survive this point in the planet, because sometimes we can have beings that come from very high densities that maybe have spent time on planet Earth, that are native to planet Earth, but with the type of codes that you guys embody, I wouldn't be surprised if you're just at the very least in communion with very angelic, very high density beings, right? And again, you might have spent some of your tentacles, right, might have been in other planetary systems in general. So beings that have spent incarnations within other planetary systems and done a lot of work on the heart chakra, or a lot of work in this 4th density consciousness, right? This is like the Christ consciousness. This is the Buddha mind, the Buddha nature, the golden rule, seeing other as self and self as other, really experiencing this to be true. Yeah, be the light, you guys. Like, I'm hearing the light of God, right, which exists in all of us, but you, throughout incarnations, you've done a lot to experience yourself as the light of God, and to experience, you've realized this to be true. You've embodied this light to be true. So your higher self is, whenever I see the zebra too, and the third eye illumined, I think of what it means to be a visionary, okay? And generally being a person that, even in some senses, there could have been some ostracization and just like crucifixion, right? Being persecuted for our beliefs because it's so beyond what the planet may be ready for at that time. So I'm hearing that you guys have gone through all of this, and even in the midst of that, it's like, the Father forgive them, for they know not what they do. Like, you guys have not allowed your heart to close down. That's been very important for your higher self, or at the very least, it's been something that you've really worked through, because sometimes we can have beings, higher density beings, coming through, and they're polarized to the light. But then, because Earth is so dense and there's so much hatred and separation, that wisdom teachings taken too far, like third eye teachings, so wisdom teachings taken too far with the heart closed down, can lead to some very treacherous waters, right? And so I feel like, at the very least, there might be, your higher self has probably set you up, like you have something in your blueprint that allows your heart to stay open, whether that's kids, whether that is like pets, whether that's really sweet lovers, like really good, genuine friends. There's something written in your blueprint this time around, especially, I feel, that was designed so you don't go too far in the sense of wisdom with forgetting your heart, because you guys are extremely wise. You guys are very perceptive. You guys know what the fuck is up. You guys know about the nature of reality. And you've had many, many, many different incarnations. You've learned a lot of things. You've played a lot of different parts with this octopus too. And yeah, I'm also hearing that there's like, you guys are the piles that would understand that you have like, these are parallel incarnations, and you wouldn't necessarily call them past lives, right? That you understand these lifetimes are going on simultaneously with this octopus energy. And so I feel like some of you guys, I don't know why this is relevant, but for some of you guys, you know that you're helping other versions of yourself, like literally other versions of yourself in all different ways. So other extensions of your own higher self, and also understanding that, you know, the golden rule of like, as you unearth, as you grow, as you expand, you're also helping your brothers and sisters of this planet. Whether or not all the souls that you've experienced all lifetimes with which seems pretty impossible with this group, especially because you've had quite very many incarnations. You know that you're influencing them as well. So yeah, there's also things here about psychic activations, being very receptive to hearing your higher self and hearing the divine mind. I'm getting clairsentience, clairvoyance, and clairsentience, clairvoyance, and claircognizance in particular for this pile. And even for some of you, because the zebra's ears are pretty big here too. What is it? Where you can hear? Clairaudience. Okay, so that's a little bit about your higher self. Now we'll get into what it is that you guys wanted to learn, or why the hell y'all are here. Okay, essentially is what we all want to know. TikTok, interesting. Maybe some of y'all are like here to influence Generation Z or like younger generations, because like sometimes I'm on TikTok and I'm like, why the fuck am I here? Like, this is like literally feels like child's play. But then higher self comes through and reminds me, my guides remind me that like, you know, you never know who needs your message that is going to find you in the most random ass place. Okay, so that might be relevant for some of you guys. Flexible. We have fall into my arms, surrender, holding the opposites, extremes of life. And the blue flame, spontaneous awakening, activation, integration time. Yeah, so you guys are here to help awaken the planet. You guys are here to help people embrace the extremes of life. Goosebumps throughout my whole body. So very similar to pile 1, and I'm not surprised. I'm like, do I really need 4 piles? Because I feel like the people drawn to my channel in particular are like, you know, they're there, you know, and you guys are really here to be lights in a very dark time, and essentially to help people not to close their heart. And why do we learn forgiveness, right? Why is that talked about in all of our major religions, that the importance of forgiveness is because older souls understand that they have played all the parts. We don't just think this, but we experience this to be true. We experience in our bones. It's almost like when we see someone doing something really shitty, it's like there's something in us that deeply knows, like, I have probably been that person. And maybe in some senses, in an individual incarnation, sometimes we get little tiny glimpses of being a shitty person. And these can be some, like, very innocent things, right? Very, like, not huge things that you would, like, go to jail for, or people would be like, why are you judging, you know? But your soul is at such a level of integrity that things that you might have done when you were younger before awakenings kind of gave you a little bit of insight into the fact that, like, you cannot have judgment in this incarnation if you are truly after freedom, and if you are truly here to set people free. Because judgment binds people to their personality, binds the soul, or at least suggests to that individual, that entity, that they are their personality. You are here to set people free and to see the light of truth, which is we are beyond this all. This is just an avatar. The ego, the personality comes along with signing up for a birth. Right? So you are beyond it, right? This is just a temporary suit. And so the more people are convinced that they are the suit and that they are the avatar, the more pain and suffering is inevitable. And it's going to keep them bound to the wheel of incarnation and the wheel of samsara and the wheel of darkness and suffering, right? But my pal twos, you guys came here, literally it says, be the light. That was the first card that set the tone for this entire reading. You came here to set people free from their illusion. Right? And so you don't have to be like, you know, throwing your pearls at swine. So talking this shit, talking a bunch of shit that, you know, to people who aren't ready to handle it or who can't hang, right? But essentially, like, what you embody and how you don't take it seriously and how you, like, same, you know, similar energy with Pal 1. I just saw 1111, right? When I looked up, it was 1111. So activation, right? And you take it seriously enough, though, and you understand it's a delicate balance of, like, I know I need to be very aware of whether I'm feeding illusion or whether I'm feeding truth. Because as long as you're on the planet, you're either feeding illusion or you're feeding truth. There's no in between. There is no in between. And you guys understand this to be true on a very deep level. You understand this to be true on a very deep level. All of your lifetimes have shown you this. It's like there's no in between. It's light or dark, right? It doesn't mean good or bad. It's just like confusion or clarity. And you guys are here to choose clarity, to choose freedom. And along with being free, you're naturally lighthearted, right? You're naturally playful. You're very spontaneous with a spontaneous energy. With spontaneous awakening too, this might be saying too that you guys go through a lot of periodic activations. And I'm hearing something for some of you, you might have had like walk-in experiences, or for me, for example, I've had like weird experiences where there was a period where I had a lot of seizures, and there's many different layers to this. If you want to learn more, I made a video about this on my main channel about spiritual illness. But there's a lot of questions that I still kind of have that my guides have somewhat answered for me in terms of where my consciousness went when I had those seizures. Because there would be sometimes hours where it would take for me, Marissa, or like my own awareness to come back online and remember this personality in this lifetime. I don't know what that was. And so I was left sometimes with the question of like, why does that keep happening just every time I talk? So you guys might have something similar is what I'm trying to say, of like strange things happening to where you were given significant evidence, or something happened to where this might even be for some of you guys, because I know a lot of you guys, when I asked about what video to make, right? If you're, have been on my channel for a while, I was like, what do you guys want to learn about? And quite a few of you guys were asking me about like spiritual encounters. And so what I'm essentially trying to get at is you guys might have had some paranormal things happen to where you were being visited by other entities, or you had certain things happen to where you had like, you went unconscious and then something happened, or you've had near-death experiences, or, things to that nature that really profoundly altered your state of being at this point on the planet, to where you're left without a question, without a shadow of a doubt that this continues to go on. And, it's just all just like a shifting of planes of consciousness. That's it. Just essentially a shifting of just like tuning the radio, like just like changing the radio frequency. That's all it is, right? And so with the flexible and the fall into your arms, what you guys came to do in this incarnation, it's like you're not taking yourself so seriously. And for some of you guys, you're not meant to stay in the same place for too long. Okay, so there might be a lot of changing of jobs, changing of sceneries, changing of living situations. I just saw 1444. And for me, 444 is not only about archangels, but my guides communicate that's like a sign of integration. So if you think of it like the 4 is like you're climbing the ladder, and then you're bringing that down, and you're going up, and then you're bringing it into experience, and then you're integrating it, right? So that's what 444, my guides have kind of shown me that represents. So it's like you're here to, you integrate very quickly is what that's telling me. With TikTok, it's like releasing the sense of time, releasing the sense of like, I feel like too, your higher self understood like, yeah, it's all going to be good at the end of it. Our souls will eventually merge back with the light, right? Like time is relative from this perspective, right? From this type of dimension. It's, it's what makes up the third dimension, but it's also relative. So it operates very differently when this dimension is not an active part of our experience. And so on one level, like Earth is, kind of running out of time. And so you guys came here to help at this point in time. And it's essential that you remain flexible, that you remain supple, and that you don't get too caught in your own belief systems and forgetting to remain lighthearted during this time. So like time on one level is running out, but it's also essential to remember that like, we have all the time in eternity too. So again, very delicate balances, this is a mark of, again, very advanced and highly attuned souls, because these do become very subtle. These realms that you guys are attuned to are very, very subtle. What goes along with subtlety is density, climbing the ladder of density. Things become much more subtle. They become more light. There's less confusion, right? And the higher you climb the ladder of densities, the more paradoxical things become. It's one of the reasons why they say the highest truths are paradoxical in nature, right? So paradox, when you become comfortable living in paradox and being a walking paradox yourself, that's how you're pretty tuned in. Pal 2 is pretty tuned in. All right, so for your tarot, we have Queen of Cups, not closing down the heart. There's more. There's so much here about you guys being very heart-guided. 8 of Cups. We have the Ace of Swords. This was in reverse, and I remember being really keen. Usually I'll turn it over, but for whatever reason, I was guided to keep it in a reverse position, and I see why. And then we have 8 of Wands. Yeah, so this is, it's really important because you guys are so tuned in and so receptive to truth. This incarnation is really important that you guys really keep your heart wide open. Okay, and again, we had that thing coming through in the very beginning, right? And it's coming in at the very end, that you have written something in your blueprint, and or it's important that you find more situations that you kind of set yourself up for success, to where you're allowing your heart to remain open. And so regardless, because I'm hearing that as you guys activate, there's those persecution codes that, we're all going to experience persecution, right? In some senses, the Bible is a metaphor for what we all experience as we awaken. And some people, we're going to have, the Pauls, and we're going to have the Judases, right? The people that don't understand us, the people that at some point were our friends and were our lovers. And then because where we operate now threatens their existence, it threatens what they have built their life upon, which in this sense is ideas, which is illusion, versus true experiential truth, right? When we hold such a contrast to those things, generally there's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of needing to end things and walk away from things, right? And so with this card coming up in a reverse position, this is just like there's such a reiteration of, it can be really easy for pile number 2 to become cold and to like have wisdom take over in a sense that also leaves you feeling hardened though, and so there's a tenderizing. This incarnation is really, it's really important that you you keep your heart open because you guys are very advanced. There's a lot of wisdom with the third eye energy, very advanced, right? But the higher self in this incarnation, it's all about being on earth, knowing it's running out of time, right? Knowing that, you know, it's either we're on the brink of the age of awakening or like, you know, this shit's about to pop off and it's, what is it, the apocalypse, right? Regardless of what that is, right? It's like ultimately your job is to keep your heart open and to continue to set yourself free. Keep your heart open and continue to be the light, whether the world is ending. Keep your heart open, be the light, and whether the world is just beginning, a new age is beginning, keep your heart open, be the light, right? Nothing changes. And you're remaining flexible and understanding that people walking away from you and not getting you, essentially, like, you can hold them in your heart, right? Doing your best to not, you know, to understand where they're coming from because you've been them before. You know, there's probably been teachers that have come into your life before you were ready to plant seeds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of incarnations ago, but nonetheless, right? You've been on a very long journey. And so the last thing we want to do is have our heart close, Pal 2, when we've come so far and done so much work of opening it to this point in time. And I know it's challenging at this point on the planet. It's very challenging, but you guys are we have third eye energy coming here and it coming up in a reverse position. And I was very guided. Usually I don't read, like I have all of my cards upright all the time. I'll fix them. And I saw it flip when I was shuffling it. It didn't flip over upright, but it flipped. And I was like, there's a significant reason, right? And so the fact that the guides were already like, there's something significant about this being in reverse, right? You can be wise, but it's really important to let the heart be the gateway to the wisdom. Heart is the gateway. Heart stays open. That's the biggest message. But very powerful souls, you came here to activate other people. Surrender, holding the extremes of life. So showing people what suffering is here for. Suffering is grace. Why? Because it shows us where we're attached. Suffering shows us where the models we have made up in our own mind, how when those don't match what's actually happening and what on a higher level we actually need for true fulfillment, that's when suffering is born. But when we surrender and we're like, I don't fucking know what's right for me, right? I'm not gonna, you know, I don't know what's right for me. I'm gonna give it up, release to my higher self. That's when we're really in a great place to be, you know, supple and flexible. Rigidity is what breaks us at the end of the day. That's when we snap, right? So it's like, yeah, very delicate balance, but the most important thing is like keeping the heart open. All right, Pal 2. Oh yeah, and then you had 8 of Wands come through. So I just saw 2-2 on the clock. So there's a lot of quick moving energy, right? It's like, y'all didn't come here to fuck around. Like very powerful, very accelerated timeline. Right? So again, one level time's running out, but on another level, it's just like, let it unfold naturally as it will, right? And your heart, let your heart be the guide here. Okay. So Pal 2, I'm going to leave this here for now. Please like this video if it resonated, comment anything down below that came through, subscribe if you feel like it, if you've been here before, and I hope to see you soon. What's up, group number 3? Here is your reading, your soul blueprint reading for why the hell y'all chose to come here of all places, out of all the places you could have gone. Let's figure out why y'all chose to come here, okay, at this point in time. So we're going to dive into your higher self, the energies of your higher self, and we're also going to obviously tune into this incarnation in particular, okay? So I have a lot of cards turned over. I haven't seen any of your cards, except I did want to see what's at the bottom of your deck. I have been doing something a little bit different each time, but that's at the bottom of your deck. Deck. So here we go. Pile 3. So why did Pile 3 come here? Or the energies of the oversoul of pile number 3. Spirit warrior. Hell yeah. Be fearless and stand strong. Fuck yes. I resonate. Y'all know that I love the warrior's archetype, okay? And I'm not surprised you're joining my channel. So, okay, higher self, warrior. We have summer, bask in joy and light. I'm just going to flip over all of these so we get a coherent reading. We have hyena. Hell yeah. Joy and light, but also very comfortable in your shadow as well, which is, you know, the warrior needs to understand both of those. And elk. Okay, very wise soul, very old soul. All of the cards that have come through in all these different piles, it's so interesting how, you know, it just reminds me that there's so many different ways that these messages can be communicated to us. And it's so beautiful to see how spirit essentially is just like telling me, Marissa, you are working with the old souls of this planet, and like I'm here for it. I'm so blessed and honored. You guys are very advanced souls. The energy of your higher self is one that has written in many blueprints. The reason why you can bask in joy and light is because you have really come to understand that that's all there is. You understand what the shadow is. The shadow are just the petrified parts of ourselves, and the shadow is not necessarily negative, right? And when you've taken birth throughout all of these incarnations, you've just learned that it's like in order to know the light, you have to have that contrast. You guys are very wise. You guys know that. And what makes a good warrior, a really bomb-ass warrior, is understanding the enemy or the perceived enemy, right? And so you really, how do you know the enemy? It's because you embody those characteristics as well. But you're conscientious, pile 3, of what parts of you are winning, right? So that, going back to that saying of the two wolves that live inside us, the light wolf and the black wolf, the dark wolf or the light wolf, the white wolf, whatever you want to say, which one wins, the one that you feed. But essentially, I feel like you don't feed the white wolf out of moral obligation, because you don't see anything inherently wrong with the shadow wolf. It's just that you prefer light, you prefer freedom, you prefer clarity, and you guys are here to literally be warriors of light, right? Not just on this incarnation in general, but your higher self has seen a lot. Your higher self has been, like, you have spent many incarnations as a warrior. So if you resonate with the warrior archetype in general, you have probably been warriors, like, in all the different ways that they can exist, right? So like for me, for example, I really resonate. I just saw 333 on the clock. I really resonate with Vikings. And I do know that my astrocartography, I think it's what it's called. There's certain like overlays that happen when you enter your information into one of those charts, and they say that where the lines overlap a lot is where you have probably spent a significant amount of lifetimes. And so mine overlap in Greenland, which is like essentially Greenland. And I know that was an area that had a lot of like Danes and Vikings, etc. Right? And so I really resonate with that archetype. I don't resonate with all warriors, but I really resonate with that. For example, so if you guys resonate with like certain like martial artists, or like, you know, different areas of the world, or different types of warriors. What am I trying to say, Spirit? What are you trying to say to me that I'm not getting right now? Yeah, different parts of the world. And, you know, there's all different types of warriors. So whichever one you resonate with the most, or that allows you to tap into that archetype, it's very safe to say that you've assumed that identity at some point. You've taken incarnation as that specific type, 444 on the clock. And that is a good gateway into you learning how to navigate the integrity of what it means to be a warrior, right? Warriors, above anything else, they trust themselves. What does it mean to trust yourself? Is you're trusting that God spark within you, the God within you. Warriors also are very connected to their instincts, right? So there's been a lot I'm seeing. Yeah, there's a lot here about like instincts, right? And laughing, like hyenas laugh. And the fact that I know this card in particular talks about like a dark kind of humor, or like a witty humor. And it's like not taking it seriously and laughing in the face of, you know, of death. Like, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Why? It's because you guys understand that this life goes on. There's no such thing as death. There's just like a changing of the channels. And you have spent incarnations where you deeply understood, very powerful, very like relevant incarnations where you understood that there was nothing more, there was no better way to die than in honor. And to die in honor meant that you were dying with purpose. You were dying while living your purpose. You were dying on the battlefield, so to speak. So you're going to have those codes leak into this life as well, of just because that's like your higher self is showing up in these very bold energy, right, from this group and all of your incarnations. And it's just becoming much more bold. The elk also reminds me of the grandfather. It reminds me of the emperor kind of energy. So someone who's about that life, right? The bee is like, reminds me of colonies and, you know, people working together. So I feel like, yeah, be fearless and stand strong. You have learned to a great extent that you would, like, a life worth living is a life where you're living for purpose. And so in this incarnation, it might be being a freedom fighter. It might be like fighting for your freedoms and not bowing down to the system, and you deciding what the fuck your life is going to be about. And I feel like you guys are, this is the type of being that would be like, I wish a motherfucker would. I wish someone would tell me, to try to tell me how I need to live my life, right? And again, it's like the hyena too reminds me of, you have deeply your higher self, you've gone through enough lifetimes to where you just understand this is a play, right? And so you're going to honor this play to the best of your ability, and whatever you feels the most honorable for you to fight for, you understand that is essential, you fight for it. So this is not a pile that's like, oh, love and light, I'm worried about like, you know, like getting too caught up in spiritual concepts of like, you can't have an opinion. This is a group that's like, you're really bold in your preferences because you understand it's part of taking a birth, right? But you do have preferences, and it is to laugh in the face of perceived evil or darkness, because you understand it's just frightened, petrified energy at the end of the day, and it has no real substance, no real power. Okay, so let's get into this lifetime in particular. We have Imagine. Yeah, it reminds me of this Fool energy coming in. Blessed. Oh my gosh. We have Baby Steps, Action, Follow your intuition before it makes sense. That Fool card was really relevant. I'm not surprised now that I'm like, there's a reason why I turned it over for this pile. And I cared because I didn't care in the other two piles. You're not alone, Isolation, Physical Connection, Community. Yeah, that community was coming through here too. So you're here to imagine. You are, you know, this is like, you guys would be a being where, or beings where, like the modern day hippies of like, let's just get together. Let's just like go buy some land and everyone live together. Like you guys are the type of being that imagines something much better for humanity, right? And you guys are, I feel like, are a voice for the voiceless, or for those people in society that people tend to forget about or not care about because they have so much else going on in their own life, right? I feel like this incarnation is really about you taking chances, right? Really about you taking leaps of faith and understanding that you will be, oh my gosh, we have the Ace of Pentacles underneath. We also have the Moon. And wow. So yeah, you understanding that you're going to be taken care of along the way, and that, again, it's your deepest fears are just inherently born of the you know, the collective unconscious, those shadowy aspects that haven't been addressed. Yeah, and I feel like sometimes you guys can feel very lonely because you have a vision that a lot of people don't think is possible, or don't care to think could be possible, because you might have grown up around a lot of people, or find yourself still surrounded by many people that don't get you. Because you're an older soul. And I don't know why this is, but a lot of the older souls that I tend to meet incarnate in families with like young souls, young to mature in some cases, souls, right? And so they can still be wise in their own way, but it's still highly veiled, right? And so I feel like one of the reasons why, yeah, you might be feeling a lot of this be fearless and stand strong type of energy in this incarnation, because you've had to stand alone for most of it, and you've probably had to fight some pretty hefty battles internally speaking, maybe even externally speaking. For some of you guys, I'm hearing something about like being afraid of where you're going to live, or how you're going to pay the rent next month, or how you're just going to physically survive. But that's made you into a warrior. This warrior archetype, for this to come through as your higher self, it's very relevant for this incarnation in particular. Okay, this warrior archetype. But you are blessed. You are blessed. You have a lot of protection in the realms unseen, right? I'm hearing some of you guys have even escaped like near-death experiences or something, to where you're like, okay, if that had gone in like a fraction of a second off, or just like a fraction of a millimeter this way or that way, like something could have happened, right? Near-death experiences, or just even wondering how you made it out of the darkness that you did without like killing yourself. And woo, I didn't mean that, but like... All right. I'm doing my best to be a bit more tactful with my words, okay? But for some of you, that might not have been an accident of why it came out like that, and I apologize if it was so harsh. But like, for me, for example, there was a lot of substance abuse, and a lot of days where I'm like, how did I even get home? Or like, how did I not just like accidentally take too much of something, right? And like kill myself on accident, right? Some people, it might be accidental, wondering like, how did that not go that way accidentally? And then how did it not work out that way on purpose, intentionally? And, you know, I'm someone that's very comfortable in the shadow, right? So I don't mean for it to be so lighthearted for me to speak about these things, but this is also part of why I'm here on the planet. So it can seem very casual coming from my lips, because to me, it's part of the play. To me, it's part of the human experience. And I still have a lot of compassion in my heart when I say these things, okay? I just felt like, wow, I just saw 12/17, which is when my mom actually took her life, right? It's the day that she died. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there, okay? But ultimately, I feel like you have learned to see the blessings in the shadows, right? The blessings in your suffering, the blessings in your own pain, because it has made you the warrior that you are. It has made you someone that is not afraid to back down to darkness. You're like, I've seen a hell of a lot worse. Like, I wish a motherfucker would try me in some way, right? There's that funny meme that's like with SpongeBob, and it's like when they didn't know that you were a thug before you were a healer. And it's like, try me, beloved. You know, that kind of energy. Like, there's another one that's really funny. It's like, I'm not sugar and spice and everything nice. I'm like peace and hood and wish a motherfucker would. Okay, that's my pile number 3s. Like, you will show your teeth if you have to. Because ultimately you're not so caught up in this ideology of what it means to be a good person that you lose your humanity along the way, and that it becomes like running away with your tail between your legs. That's not what pile number 3 would do, right? There's a healthy amount of pride here in what you stand for, and that's beautiful. With you're meant to, I feel like I'm hearing too that a lot of things aren't meant to make sense in your life until you've already done it. Until you've already gone through a phase, it doesn't make sense until you look back, right? And so this keeps you in a very surrendered state. This keeps you in a very like pliable state, right? So, and you've always had people that understood you, even when people that you think should have, like family and friends that were there, like people have always understood you. At the very least, they're like, I don't get why you do what you do, but because there's such a purity and such a passion behind this group, such a fire, that I feel like there's a lot of people that keep tabs on you. Okay. But you will never go without. You will never not be taken care of. You are beyond blessed. This life is very protected, even when it's... What's up, pile 3? So I had to let my phone charge for a little bit, but speaking of Vikings... While it was charging, I went to go turn on. I'm currently, I have like 4 episodes till I finish Vikings Valhalla. So it was a nice little break, a little pick-me-up while my phone charged a bit. But I jotted down where I left off, and I essentially said how, you had to adopt the darkness of the planet, right? The darkness and the density of the planet. You took it on as your own. So a lot of the heaviness, it's like what better of a vessel or a vehicle to take on the darkness than someone who's really not afraid of it, that doesn't see, you've seen worse, you've experienced worse in other incarnations. And at this point in the planet, I feel like you understand it's more of like a psychological and a spiritual warfare, although there is war that happens on our planet more so than just what the mainstream does say, does or does not say. At the end of the day, I feel like you just understand the realms and the paradigms that beings are operating under to engage in warfare in the first place. Just as a small example, and just all of the different complexities or the different things, like understanding that on a large scale, that's an externalized battle of the internal battle that we all go through. And so your soul is very, very familiar with your higher self, is very familiar with this type of warfare, and you've learned how to master it. You've learned how to utilize it to your advantage, to not run from the shadow, but understand it's a necessary part of what it means to be a creator. And that's that you have choice. We don't have to choose a light. We don't have to choose anything. But essentially we are, right? Essentially we're always making a decision of where we stand and what we do and do not stand for. And so I feel like you really, with the bask in joy and the light, at the end of the day, you always choose light. You always choose to stand in your own authority and to follow something essentially greater than yourself, right? And you've always, I feel like, you just have a very strong connection, it seems like, to your higher guidance, and you're definitely meant to bring in new paradigms on the planet. All right, so we're going to get into your tarot now. Tell us a little bit more. Yeah, look at this. This is my When Pigs Can Fly card. And so this to me is like those realities and those timelines that seem too good to be true. I also just saw 222, which is like all about the narratives that you choose, right? Choosing a more positive narrative than not. Again, going back to, you understand that like we don't really have to do anything. We're not obliged to do anything, right? I feel like in this lifetime, it's really about like, you understand to a deep degree that like you might as well make the most out of it, right? You might as well believe that great things can happen. And I feel like because deep in your bones, it's not just like a believing like out of a false faith. I feel like you guys have truly seen experiences and had glimpses of heaven on earth, and glimpses of like greater paradigms, and glimpses between your own small interactions with people, and whatever. I feel like your guys' life has been really unique up to this point, in that you're just like very well explored internally and externally. And so I feel like because you've had so much contrast of seeing what it's like to live in darkness and confusion, and to choose timelines that maybe perpetuate suffering for others, and you know that you've spent so much time choosing in all these different incarnations, like you're like, I'm here for the light. And so it's a choice that's not born out of like morality, a false morality. It's chosen because it's like a true sense of like making a choice, and not because you've been told by any type of commandments or someone outside of yourself, this is what you should do. This is just like what you have learned. This is what you genuinely and authentically stand for. And so part of your incarnation with the baby steps, follow your intuition before it makes sense, and this imagine, and the Page of Cups, and the community, I feel like a big part of what you're here to do is to build communities of like-minded warriors, right? Spiritual warriors, because there is a lot of spiritual warfare going on, whether you would call it that or not. Like, you know, whenever people are using fear and propaganda to control the masses and targeting their most primal sense of fear and survival in order to control them, that is warfare. That is spiritual warfare, in my most humble of opinions. Especially doing so knowing that you know that's what's happening, and the other people, you know, trust you to not be acting shady and shit, you know? So I feel like you guys imagine a much different way of existing. And part of this incarnation is to make that happen, is to take the steps to ground these higher ideals, and not to just like listen to a bunch of videos and a bunch of spiritual teachers tell you that there's a different way of living. It's like you guys are already probably doing it for a lot of you, and it's just going to get more insane and more incredible and much more like blessed. You're just going to feel blessed, and you're going to be like, how, like, there's not going to be a question of how the shit works, right? Like, you're going to know without a shadow of a doubt that the only way to live and truly have a fulfilling life is when you're led by faith versus led by, you know, the physical senses, right? True spiritual warrior is one that, you know, you don't know. I feel like you're at a point within your incarnations, and with probably within this incarnation too, to where there's no turning back. And you'd much rather, like, living any other way than in alignment with faith is like selling your soul at this point, you know? And I know that might seem like intense, but you guys, like with this warrior archetype and this hyena card, there is a lot of intensity behind your expression, right? But still there's this like, also it feels very divine and very, I know I keep saying protected. Maybe, have I? I don't know if I said that for this group because I did take that break. But with blessed and imagine, I just feel like you are very divinely protected by something greater. Yeah, and even with this, like, you're not alone, this reminds me of like your guides, right? Your guides and beings you've spent other incarnations within other, you know, parallel realities, and just within other planetary systems in general. Like, you have a lot of people that got your back and are whispering, you know, into your ear, right? So you have King of Wands. Yeah, very bold. There's more of that Emperor energy coming through here, right? So you're meant to stand out. There's more here about leadership and like entrepreneurship, and someone that's a go-getter, someone that doesn't wait for cues on the outside to tell them what's possible, especially with the line here coming through, like, you know, this Leo energy coming through, Aries energy coming through of like, I don't wait, you know, you're not going to wait to tell me how it is, right? I feel like, yeah, there's like that, again, that healthy pride that is coming through here with this warrior archetype of like, you're not going to tell me. You know, I just watched this part in this show where, or this part really stood out to me, to where the king, there's a king, Viking, and he's talking to this other guy, right? And the king was asking this guy, like, why do you trust this person? Why do you trust this warrior so much? And this guy was like, because he has a lot of courage. And the king was like, well, we all have courage. And he was like, no, but his courage is different. His courage doesn't come from speeches and pounding on shields. His courage comes because he trusts himself. It comes from him. And he's like, and in my experience, that type of courage is very rare. And that's the type of courage that pile number 3 has come in with, and to tap into more and more. It's not born from the outside. It's not born from other people telling you how it is or hyping someone up. It's born because that's just who you are, and it's written in your plan. It's written in your codes, and you've seen a lot worse in other lifetimes, believe it or not. This is not to downplay whatever you might have gone into, or like in this lifetime, what you've been through in this lifetime, but it's to say that you have truly seen much worse, and you've been on both sides of that. And so now you're in a place to where, again, that light is being birthed from the purity and authenticity of having gone through an immense amount of purification. So next we have Page of Pentacles. We have the Hanged Man. Yeah, there's a lot about surrender. 3 of Wands. Yeah, being unafraid. Like, you're unafraid. Like, this life is about being unafraid to voyage into unknown territories, or voyage into the places that other people might be afraid to explore. It might just be like, honestly, you know, have a lot of tamasic energy. Tamasic energy is energy that, like, it's like not really caring, not really taking a stand for something. It's almost like lazy, right? You can almost even say it's lazy in the sense, I don't mean to, it's not, I don't know, it's not a negative quality, but that's just like not you guys. You're like, I feel like the thought of you letting yourself go in any area of life is just like, would torment your soul, because you are such a purpose-driven individual. You're here with so much purpose. And even when it seems like you can't overcome, like in this lifetime, when it seems like you can't overcome a karmic knot, I feel like that like really gets under your skin. It really gets to you because, again, living intentionally in all areas that you can is really important to you. And so if anything, this incarnation, a lot of this could be about like giving yourself a break and knowing that you're guided, and you have people, you have guides, and you're here to build communities. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that are tuning into your work, that are tuning into your expression, or that want to work with you, and that you are going to be working with other people, other leaders, other warriors on this planet to build, to ground this type of thing, to ground heaven on earth, right? Because other people, other visionaries, right? Other people that are able, have the capacity to think beyond just their own lifetime and their own like selfishness and their own needs. And you're really here to help. You know, this is like an all or nothing kind of thing. I feel like you guys come with this energy of like all or nothing, and like go big or go home. And this is your lifetime. Like, you're going to do it. You guys have a hell of a lot of codes here to support it. You've got the universe behind your back. Yeah, a lot of new beginnings with a lot of people. A lot of people want to work with you. A lot of people want to collaborate with you. And it's like, things end up working out for you. Things will work out for you because you're not here to prove a point, right? This is not for you. This is not for your own ego trip. This is because, again, you have made the choice. You have made the choice to be in service for the planet and not just in service for yourself. And so that's like when you align, when you make that alignment, it's like nothing can fucking stop you. And you guys have already seen that. You've already seen glimpses of that. You've seen that in other incarnations, but this lifetime, man, it's going to get better. The better it gets, the better it's going to get. You are well blessed, and you will have everything you need, and you will continue to see. It will more and more feel like you're like, this is a dream come true. You're going to be like, this is crazy. This is my life. This is insane, right? What you maybe dreamt about years ago, even like a decade for some of you tuning in, even for some of you decades ago, is literally your reality. Right. And you're going to have moments of that more and more where you're like, oh my gosh, like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I made that little tweak and I just followed where I was guided before it made sense, and that I surrendered to something greater than myself. Right. So thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. Yeah, this is beautiful. We'll probably end up collaborating. Just kidding. The nerve I have to say that. But at some point, you know, I just love seeing people like within this type of energy. It's very inspiring. And those are the type of people I want to work with and meet and just like collab with, you know what I mean? So, hey, you know, reach out if you want to, but otherwise let this just be here to say just thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for living on purpose. And yeah, if this resonated, please like this video, comment below if it resonates, subscribe if you've been here before, and I hope to see you soon. Hey Pal 4, welcome to your reading, your soul blueprint reading for why it is you chose. Why you chose to come here, okay? My brave souls, pile number 4. We're going to tap into just the energy of your oversoul, your higher self in general, and then we'll obviously get into the details of this incarnation, as many details as I can for a very general type of reading, okay? So yeah, let's dive right into it. So the energies of your oversoul, your higher self. We have Mirror Guardian, take time to reflect. So very celestial being is what I'm getting. Very cosmic soul for sure. Medicine Guardian. Okay, 2 Guardian cards coming through. That's something I definitely take note of. Be open to healing information. So you're also working with Pal 4. You guys are working with overseers of just like Earth in general, like Earth Guardians and like angelic entities, whether like whatever resonates for you. Angelic, just higher density beings. Angels, aliens, whatever you want to say, okay? You're working with high level beings at this time on the planet. You have Lion. Ooh, hell fucking yes, is what I like to see. Some of you might resonate with like the Lyran star system or like race in general. Oh my God, yeah. Did I not say cosmic being? Yeah, you're a very advanced cosmic soul. Pal number 4. You guys are, so about your higher self, I mean, you've taken many incarnations, many different types of experiences that have brought you into a place of regality, a type of regality that you can't mimic, you can't make it up, you can't force it. You've had many different experiences that have allowed you to unearth a type of exquisiteness that is very hard to put into words. I feel like you have a very direct line of communication with your higher self. You know that you're in alignment with your higher self when you just allow yourself to be bold. Like it feels bold in whatever unique way. Like bold doesn't always look like you're putting yourself on display, like this very Leo energy that's coming through. But sometimes it can be, right? Essentially being bold is just like not giving a fuck about what people think about you. And because of it, because you don't give a fuck about what they think, you can actually serve them a hell of a lot better. Because when we're trying to tiptoe around, am I going to offend someone or is someone going to get this? You might miss out on someone that needs to hear your message exactly as you wanted to send it or say it or put it out there before you like adulterated it, right? Before you altered it, essentially, you know? So in order to like appease the limited minds of other people or just the limitations of mind and communication and language in general, right? So I feel like it's just like you have learned throughout many incarnations that it is not worth it to sell your soul in any way and to skip out on your own truth or to dull your own light. You're coming in with a profound connection to the spiritual realms, right? Even within the first 2 cards alone, that was very clear that you have very divine guidance, you have access to very high codes, high level light codes. And that's like true healing. Be open to healing information. Holistically, that's like truth, light. The more unearthing you do, the more that you do to remove the veil of confusion, the veil of forgetfulness that is very dense on this planet. Naturally, you heal, right? The closer you come to understanding and seeing through the eyes of God, like you don't need protection spells. You don't need A, B, C, or D. Like what you do outside doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really mean that, you know, if this is where these types of beliefs and ideologies in the wrong hands could fuck someone up, right? But you guys are wise because like this is what you have experienced to be true. The lighter you become, you don't want to harm other people. You do see that other is self. You have gone through these lessons of what it means to look at someone else and see your own reflection, right? And that we're all on this journey together. And you've done a lot of unearthing to where it's like, I feel like your higher self has put you through many incarnations where there was a lot of purification. Okay. So there probably was incarnations where you did sell out, where you weren't bold, where like everything that I'm telling you about what it means to be bold, you probably did the opposite, right? You probably did sell out. Like we all go through it. It's part, we only have eternity to fuck around, so y'all have probably been through some shit like the rest of us, right? Like the rest of these older souls out here, even mature to younger souls, like we're all going to go through it. But I feel like ultimately your higher self is telling you to take time to reflect. You have spent many lifetimes marinating in truth and philosophy and understanding, making life make sense to you, and having it. We've had teachers, you've had teachers, I'm hearing, you've had people come into your life to guide you, but ultimately it's been a very self-guided and or maybe at the very least, oh my God, yeah, look at all these. There's been so much healing. This is all at the bottom of the deck, FYI, okay? It just keeps coming. Literally the Hermit, literally so much healing through the time you've taken to reflect. And as you grow older, as the more incarnations you've taken, the less you've relied on other teachers and other people. But there was a point, like all of us along our journey, we do become heavily reliant on other individuals. And then throughout a myriad of incarnations, we learn that we have to trust ourselves above anything else. And we have to go through our own unearthing and our own soul discovery as incarnates, right? As divinity incarnate, as sparks of God. And that ultimately, as long as we're incarnate, as long as we're veiled, doesn't matter how high you think someone is, high of a being, how close to God someone claims themselves to be, it's still a finite perspective of the infinite, right? And so I feel like this is all things that you've unearthed. You've taken time to make sense of life, and where you speak, where you stand is very authentic. It's very powerful. And I believe the Cosmic Egg is the last card in this entire animal spirit deck. So this is just like completion, right? Very advanced, very old soul. This might even be one of your last lifetimes on Earth in general, if that resonates. But at the very least, it's like a lot. I don't think, and we'll get into the tarot, but this kind of tells me that your reason for incarnating probably has less to do with your own lessons, your own experiences, your own learning. And this is to help Earth. Really, I see this as like a beautiful being, like wrapping up the Earth, the sphere, right? In its tender, warm embrace. And you are powerful. You are very powerful. There's like, again, that regality and that purposeful nature behind you. And the world shakes when you walk, okay? In a very positive way. Okay, so yeah, and you're working generally, this is the last thing with the higher self. You're just working with a lot of guides, right? Not just personal guides, but you are very connected to like all spheres. So my guides kind of show me that we have personal guides, which are like our ancestors, and then everyone has one, at the very least, one spirit guide that they're working with, right? That's like your personal circle. And then as it expands, there's like different spheres of different guides working with us, depending on our own blueprint and the own complexities we come in with and what we're here to help the planet with. And so there's guides that are overseeing those different demographics, right? And so you have access to like a lot of those guides, like non-personal guides. You're in communion with a lot of them, okay? So let's see what else we have going on. So for this incarnation, what it is about this incarnation, like why did you take birth? We're going to get into that. We have yin energy coming in. We have community. You're definitely here to be a part of something bigger, if not be building it. In terms of community, in terms of new earth, building new earth. We have wait, it's not yet time. Things are being woven. Interesting with that yin energy as well. And the cosmic heart, devotion, potency, make your life a moving prayer. So I'm going to flip over your tarot cards just so we can get a bit more of a coherent reading. Because we do have like a lot of this like kind of waiting energy with the Hermit, with a Hanged Man energy, the Yin card. So it's interesting that this life might for you feel like a suspension of sorts, or like you're very much so in the world, but not of it. Like, it's kind of playing out, like part of your incarnation. Like, if you were to experience some challenges, it might be being around feeling like you're not doing enough, even though I can see just like by you existing on the planet in this dimension, like there's such incredibly powerful light codes being communicated. There's a lot to here. There's more like all of the cards that are coming through, or there's a lot of cards coming through that have this celestial undertone, you see? And we have the cosmic egg. There's like 4 cards specifically here that, and you have cosmic, you have the word cosmic coming through twice here too. So it's all very interesting. I mean, that you cannot make this up. This is a very advanced group of souls. Yeah, part of your reasoning for being here is grounding the divine feminine onto the planet at this time, right? The feminine energy is very community focused, community oriented. So it's like, what is it? What is that saying of all for one and one for all? What is that? What is that movie? Y'all are about to make fun of me. If you know, you know. What is that movie? It's like, I can't remember, but all for one, the Three Musketeers. I don't know if I've even watched that movie, but I know that saying, okay? All for one and one for all, right? So it's like, you really came here to be of service to the planet. Like, I feel like at the very least of the time that you guys are watching this video, those beings that are drawn to this, because there's going to be different beings drawn to this at different points. So for you guys, you might be in this phase of your community, like you might, 11. You guys might be making a lot of connections or waiting to make a lot of connections, but it's like, you might feel suspended right now. There's a lot of like suspension and feeling like things are not materializing at the rate that you maybe expected them to or wanted them to. But there's all different components. People are going through their own activations, right? There's like other activations that need to happen with these other people that, you know, I can see at some point you will most likely come together and be working with and collaborating with and dancing with and creating with. And so, you know, there's a lot about this incarnation being about being receptive. Like, you're going to act when it feels right to act, but it's going to feel like things just come to you. Okay. This incarnation feels like things come to you, opportunities, like you don't have to really go out and seek them. They literally land on your doorstep. Okay. And this sense of like being bold, being powerful, when it feels right, and not for the sake of feeling like you need to prove something, or you need to be bold and be powerful. Okay. So for some of you guys, it might be like you see this vision, you have really powerful visions, and you get a hell of a lot of downloads from your guides and from your team behind the scenes. And it feels like you're like, okay, but when? It's like just things are being woven, right? Yeah, it's not quite time yet, but things are happening. Don't think just because things aren't playing out how you think they should on the earth plane that something is inherently wrong or not going perfectly according to plan. That's part of the yin energy, is like, it's very mysterious. The divine feminine is very mysterious. It's not consistent. There's not patterns you can follow with the feminine like you can with like the masculine element of nature, where it's very cyclical and you can like rely on it. At the very least, you can rely on it to be chaotic, or you can rely on it to work in a very nonsensical way. Okay, so that's one thing you can rely on in this lifetime, is that it's going to work out in ways you probably though couldn't have fathomed, but you can at the very least trust that it's going to be good, right? It's going to be great. And yeah, there is a lot here about you came here to build communities. There's something about, you know, being part of a community, maybe even leading your own community, workshops, retreats, places where people can come and receive nourishment, this divine feminine nourishment, and learning how to connect with their own self, their own higher self, and teaching people just essentially what you've learned throughout all of your incarnations, of what it means to be an incarnate and to live in your own power, your own raw, authentic power. Okay, so we're going to move on. Let's see what else we have. Oh my God, this card has come up in 3 of the piles. Page of Pentacles, we have the Page of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. There's so much page energy that's been coming through these piles. So there's like this innocence and this sense of like a beautiful and a positive naivety, like a beginner's mind that is essential for this incarnation, for you to keep your sanity, right? Is to have a beginner's mind and to understand and to just remember that the second you think you know how things are, that's a good time to release your ideas of how things are, because that's when we kind of like cut off our own flow, and we like don't allow things that could show us different or show us better to come in, because we think we're set, you know, we think we're set essentially. So yeah, devotion, potency, make your life a moving prayer. This is again, a state of surrender, right? A state of just opening, like being the receptive vehicle. Like I will act like the lions, for example, one of my favorite, I don't know if it's described in this one or where I've heard this saying before, but if you have ever looked at lions, like, or studied lions, not that I have, but like, we know this to be true about lions. Okay. We can all agree that when you see a lion, like lounging around on a lounging day, they seem very lazy, right? But if you see a lion when it needs to get shit done and it needs to get food done, or like food and, you know, survive and like not let other lions come attack and kill its pride, there's a hell of a lot of energy and power and potency behind it. So this is my pile 4. It's like a big part of this incarnation is not feeling like you have to push upstream, and that, you know, you're rewriting the script of what it means to be powerful, of what it means to be a creator. You don't have to try so hard, right? Trying so hard can a lot of the times comes from like this, some sort of complex that we need to prove ourselves, right? And so it's like things come to you, and you better be sure as hell when they come and it's in alignment, it feels right, your pile 4 is going to fucking act on it and going to like make a name for themselves. Okay, so there's a lot here about, about receiving divine guidance, receiving divine ideas, and then acting on it. It might seem like this might even be a group that seems to start a lot of things, and like you've had success in many different areas, or you're going to see success in many different areas. And it really does show you that, like, okay, like I do have something going on. And a big part of that is because you're very in tune. There's a very direct connection with your soul stream. That's very clear, especially, I think this is the only one, and all of the piles were connected in their own way, their own powerful way. But, you know, to have a spirit card come up in this, you know, to describe the higher self especially, tells me that you guys have a very powerful and tangible connection to your soul stream, your higher self. 6 of Pentacles. We have King of Wands, beautiful. And we have Queen of Wands. Okay, you have the only thing you're missing is a Knight, right? But you have all the, wow. You guys are about transformation. The Lion is about transformation too. So I feel like you're here to help a lot of people transform. Okay, you're here to help a lot of people up level. Like we have the Page, we have the King, we have the Queen. This is all about like mastering the feminine and masculine archetypes, right? So being magnetic is the Queen of Wands, and being very potent and active is the King of Wands. But there's definitely much more about like waiting for things to make sense and not feeling like you need to do something. This incarnation is like, you don't feel like you have to go out and do stuff and like launch programs and like sell a bunch of things online, you know, like when you are guided to do something, it's going to have a lot of potency behind it when it's actually in tune and when it feels right and when it's born from the right place. All right. And so, yeah, and you'll be, you know, your purpose will support you. You will be supported by this bigger vision, essentially, and supported in terms of like, of course, having your needs met, but I'm talking about like emotional support, right? Like relationships. I feel like is a very strong aspect to your incarnation, having very strong relationships and beings that look up to you and that, you know, you can share the sweetness of life and that really get you, that see the realms that you're existing in. And it's beautiful, this age of Aquarius that we're in, because we can be connected with so many people. So even if they're not always in our external reality, we know they're out there, and we have ways now to connect ourselves with those beings. Right? So there's a lot of like new beginnings. I feel like that might be on the cusp, at least for many of you guys that are tuning into this, or at the very least, this is saying that you're going to have your hands in a lot of different areas, and you're going to see like a lot of things. Might not make sense always, right? Of like why you're guided to these different pockets where you don't stick into something very long. And it's because like any other type of university, you're learning different things, right? You're learning different skills, different skill sets, in order to make, in order for it to become this beautiful mosaic that is going to be your incarnation. So if it hasn't made sense, rest assured it's for a reason. I mean, you guys are highly guided, and a lot of the times, like, normal, for the most normal in our day and age is actually like a very insane way to live, right? Normal, being so disconnected from your higher self, is considered normal, right? Not living in spiritual truth and abiding by spiritual laws is considered normal, right? Fucking up other countries and people and just like going in and like being a Karen and bombarding your reality on other people because you think you have some sort of authority, and you like, people feel like they have some sort of right and like entitlement to tell other people the way that they live their life is wrong. That's considered normal mentality, is like shit talking other people's paradigms and calling people ignorant, when true ignorance is thinking that there's only one reality, right? True intelligence recognizes that reality is relative, and depending on the lens that you're seeing in will determine what type of reality you're existing in, okay? And so I feel like it's, at the very least, it might have been challenging, right? It might be challenging for you to have met people like that in your everyday your circumstances, right? But you're learning that, you're not here for normal. You stand out. You've always stood out. And so in many ways, it's like you're waiting for great. And it might not have always panned out the way that you thought it would, or that you thought you wanted it to, but it's because you're living in a much different template than many people. Pile 4 doesn't want normal. Normal is not meant for pile 4. You are way beyond those realms. And so it's not going to make sense when you're existing outside of normality, and you don't want it to, because normal is insane for the most part. And what truly makes sense is surrender, and being surrendered to something bigger. Truth with this cosmic egg, like being connected to something much greater than yourself. That's true sanity, right? True sanity is like clarity. Seeing through the eyes of God is clarity, is understanding that there's so much more than meets the eye. And so that's where true compassion is born, because then you don't judge other people. You're like, I don't know what the fuck what you got going on in your field, or what you're here for. Like, hands off, peace and love. I just saw 2222 on the clock, but like, peace and love, like, as long as you're not, don't come around me with all that bullshit and we're good, kind of thing. But you're here to help a lot of people transform in a lot of ways, and to help reframe ideas of what sanity is. Because a lot of you have probably felt like you haven't really fit in anywhere, and you're not meant to, right? You guys truly are like very divine beings. And we all are, but what sets people apart is you have realized that. You have realized your divinity and embodied it to a very tangible degree. That it's only a matter of time before that God power that's working through you is noticed. And for some of you, you're already seeing it. You're already seeing these types of miracles that are like some people can only fathom. You've already seen it. And for a lot of you, it's just the beginning in many ways. Okay, and it's going to get better. It's going to get even more fun. And you are here to be a way show of new earth, in your own unique way, however that looks for you. But it's not rushing the process. And at the same time, when things show up, like, you act in bold ways when you're meant to. You're continuing to tune in, to take that time to reflect, with all of that. It's what's brought you to this state of wisdom in the first place. And being so regal, and people looking at you like someone, with this queen and king. It's like, even if you're here, people are like, they've always knew you were going to be this. Even when you were a page, people knew you were going to be a king or a queen. Right? And there's a lot of regality that continues to come through, and a lot of just being extremely tuned in beyond your years, beyond lifetimes, right? Beyond this universe, right? Like galaxies. This is incredible. And so you can trust yourself. You can trust life is going to take care of you. And you're at a point where you have to trust yourself. Like, no going outside. Like, yeah, I tune into teachers all the time, and I love hearing different perspectives, because we're all talking about the same shit at the end of the day. Some people are more articulate with what they have to say. Some people are more simple, but it's like, at the end of the day, like, and you're here to teach other people that they have to trust themselves too, in whatever unique way. Because trusting yourself ultimately is trusting God, right? So beautiful. I'm gonna leave this here for now, pile 4. Shout it out down in the comment section if it resonates. Yeah, like this video at the very least. It helps my channel grow. Subscribe if you've been here before, and I hope to see you soon.